Hello everybody, this is David and this is part 3 of installing a CasaTunes system. And in this video we're going to look at using room groups as a way for streamlining control of multiple rooms. So just as a refresher, this is the installation that we're looking at. We have a CT+2 two-stream music server with a CasaTunes 6x6 matrix amplifier. And we have 6 rooms. The rooms below: kitchen, dining, guest room, master bedroom, master bathroom, and a living room. And let's see what room groups are and how we're going to use it in this example. So what is a room group? Well, a room group allows CasaTunes to control multiple rooms just as if it was another room. And it actually adds another room to the app, which looks again just like another room. So when you power on that room or that room group, CasaTunes will go ahead and power all the rooms that are part of that group. And when you power on the room group, or if you switch the source for a powered on room group, CasaTunes then switches the source for all the rooms in the group to be the same source. Now, each room in the room group can have a different volume level. However, when you change the volume for a room group, CasaTunes will change the volume for all rooms by the same amount while maintaining the volume differences between the rooms. Now, you can temporarily change the individual volumes for a room in a room group. However, the next time you power on the room group, the volume differences or the volume deltas for each room are then reset. So even if your customer goes ahead and changes the volumes for individual rooms in the room groups, once they power it off and power back on again, they're back to the settings that you set up for them. So when should we use room groups? There are 2 scenarios that we think are good use cases for room groups. The first case is when we have large rooms or areas that require multiple zones or multiple pairs of speakers. So for example, that could just be a large room, like a large living room. You may have 4 speakers instead of the 2 speakers, so you have 2 zones within that room. Or you have open plan areas where the kitchen, living room, and dining room are all part of the same area, and you may have speakers in each of the dining room, kitchen, and living room, and yet you want to control it as if it's just one main area. Also, outdoor areas are a common case where you might have some pool speakers, and then you have a bunch of speakers in the yard. And one thing we've seen in some installations is people will tend to use big speakers and just blast them. But it's really much better to use smaller speakers and more of them around the yard. And then you can group all those speakers together as part of a room group so that you can control them all as if it's just the yard. Now, the other thing that's nice about the CasaTunes room groups is that in the case of an open plan area, so let's say where you have the kitchen, dining room, and living room all part of an open plan area, chances are is that all your customer wants to do is they just want to be able to power on the main area and not necessarily be concerned with the speakers in each of the kitchen, dining room, and living room areas. So rather than see the main area and then see the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room, what you can do is you can actually hide the dining room, kitchen, and living room and just have the main area. And that's all the customer has to deal with. And the second scenario is for implementing multi-room scenes. So for example, you could have a party scene where you want to have all the rooms in the main areas and even the yard all participate in a party scene. Or you could have a nighttime scene. So when you come home at night, you want to have music throughout the house in different areas of the house. So those are good multi-room scenes. Now, for our example here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a party room group. And that's just going to include the kitchen, dining room, and living room. Okay, so the next question is, what's the best way to create a room group? And really, the idea here is that what we want to do is, first of all, just power off all the rooms, and then go ahead and power on all the rooms that are going to be part of the room group, and then configure the volume settings for each room just the way you want it. Okay, so you have all the different volume settings for each of the different rooms that are going to be part of this room group. And now what will happen is when you actually create a room group, CasaTunes will automatically initiate the room group based on all the rooms that are powered on, and it will set up the volumes based on the current volume settings for those rooms. So the way to create a room group is you use the CasaTunes X app, and you can either navigate to the rooms view, or you can go to the menu settings, system setup, rooms group. So there's two places where you can configure room groups, but it's really the same code in both instances. And then once you're in that view or in that location within the menus, you'll go ahead and select add room group. But we'll show you this in a second. And then after you've created the room group, you can always go back in and edit the room group settings, and we'll show you how you can do that in the CasaTunes X app. Okay, so at this point, let's jump into the CasaTunes X app, and let's go ahead and create our room group. Okay, so so we're now in the rooms view, and this is for Jack and Jill's home. This is from the previous, from parts 1 and part 2 that we did. And as you can see here below, there's this add room group option. So one way to do it is just go ahead and select this. The other way is we can go to the menus, and then we can go to settings, and then we can go to system setup, and then you can go into room groups. Okay, and it's pretty much the same thing. So we're just going to go ahead and do it from the rooms view. So let's go ahead and add a room group. But remember, the way that we want to create a room group, the first thing we want to do is we want to power on the rooms that are going to be part of the room group. So we'll go ahead and power on the dining room, the kitchen, and the living room. And then we're going to go in and set the volume for each of those rooms. So we'll go into the dining room. It's set at 40. That looks good. We're going to go into the kitchen. It's set at 50. That looks good. We'll go into the living room. That one's set at 60. So that looks good. So we've got the dining room at 40, the kitchen at 50, and the living room at 60. Okay, now let's go in to add our room group. So we go to add our room groups, and if we had created some rooms, they would be listed here at room groups. They'd be listed here, but we haven't created one yet. So let's go ahead and add the room group. And you see that by default, what CasaTunes does is it checks to find any rooms that are powered on and makes them part of the room group. And in addition, it also records the volume levels. So the title here, dining room dash kitchen dash living room, this is CasaTunes just creating the room name for the room group, but we're going to go ahead and change that. But then the line below that shows us which rooms are part of this room group. So let's go ahead and edit the properties for the room group. So in here we go, and you can see that we have a room group name. So let's go ahead and change that name. We're going to call this the party, if you recall. So this is going to be our party room group. And then we've got to pick a picture for our party room group, which I guess we'll pick a drink. That's a good choice. Then there's some other properties that we can set. So for example, we can enable a turn on volume if we want the room group always to start off at a specific volume, which is probably something that you will do. Then we have whether this room group should be published as an airplay target. Which by default it will be. That means that if you now go on your iOS device, you will see party listed as a target, and you can just stream directly to the party room group. And by the way, this party room group is also set up on Spotify Connect. So it'll be set up as a Spotify Connect speaker. So again, with the Spotify app, you can also go directly to this party room group. And now you see that the members of the member rooms in the group are going to be the kitchen, dining room, living room. And so we can further look at those details. And we can see here that we have all our rooms listed. And now what you see is that the dining room, which was, remember, it was at volume 40, is at -10. So what happens is CasaTunes averages out all the volumes for all the rooms, and it picks the middle of the volume for the room group. And then it adds an offset from the average. So the dining room, so the average was 40, 50, and 60. So the average was 50. The dining room is 40, so it has a -10 offset. The kitchen was at 50, so it has a 0 offset. And then the living room was at 60, so it has a 10 offset. So this just shows you the volume offsets, and we'll see that when we change the master volume, or the group volume, it will automatically preserve these deltas as we change the volume. So let's go ahead and save this party room. And now you'll see that the party room is also listed here under room groups. So let's go ahead and turn off all our rooms. So now let's turn on the party room. And you can see that when we turn the party room on, it automatically turns on the dining room, kitchen, and living room. And it will change that source to player 2 in all those rooms. And you can see that the current volume for this room group is 50. And then you'll also notice that down here next to the volume is a group volume button. And this shows you what the individual rooms that are part of the group are set at. So if we select that, you can see here that the kitchen's at 50, the dining room's at 40, and the living room is at 60. And if we go ahead and change this volume, let's say we change it to 40 as an example, and now we bring up the volume control, you'll see that the kitchen is now 40, dining room is 30, and the living room is 50. So it preserved the volume deltas, it preserved the volume differences as we changed the group volume. Now, in addition to changing the group volume, you can also go ahead and override the delta difference for one of the rooms. So for example, I can change this to 40, okay? And now when I change the room volume, let's say we change it back to 50, and now we look at our group volume, it's going to update here. So you'll see that the kitchen and the dining room are both at 50, and the living room is at 60. But if you recall, what I said is that if we now power off this room group, and then we power the room group back on, the deltas will be reset to what they were when you created the room group. And this is good because if your customer messes around with the volumes, or the volumes get messed up, or whatever else, or whatever else he does, all he has to do is turn that room group off and then turn it back on, and it restores the volumes to where they were. So that's a quick overview of how room groups work, and we recommend that if there's a need for your customer to have a room group, that is part of your initial setup of your CasaTunes system for your client. I want to thank you for your time.